Hello, English learners. How are you? I hope you are doing well. I'm Amina, an AI-generated voice, and let's practice English together. Welcome to my channel, Progressive English Learning, a place where you can improve your English with interesting topics every day. Today, we will talk about something very important that affects all of us and our future: climate change and global warming. Learning English while discussing real-world issues can help you understand the language better and also raise your awareness of the planet's health. In this video, we will explore what causes climate change, its effects on nature and people, and some simple but effective solutions that everyone can use to protect our world. So let's get started with a friendly conversation about melting ice caps and pollution, and find out how our daily life choices can help save the planet. Last winter, my friend Sarah and I were watching a documentary about the Arctic ice caps melting faster than before. She told me, "It's scary how quickly the ice is disappearing, and that affects animals like polar bears and seals." I replied, "Yes, it's because of global warming. The Earth is getting hotter because of pollution, like too much smoke from cars and factories." She asked, "What exactly causes this heat to increase so much?" I explained, "It's mainly caused by greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide and methane, which trap heat in the atmosphere. These gases come from burning fossil fuels, like coal, oil, and gas, for electricity and transportation." Sarah nodded and said, "So that means everyday activities, like driving cars or using electricity, are adding to the problem?" Exactly. We all contribute in different ways. Even small things like wasting energy at home or throwing away food. We went on to discuss how these changes are not just about the ice, but affect the whole planet. For example, global warming causes more extreme weather, like hurricanes, floods, and droughts. Sarah said, "I remember last year my town had a huge flood, and it destroyed a lot of homes. It's sad to see people losing their houses because of these storms." I agreed and added, "Yes, and rising temperatures also hurt crops and food supplies. When it's too hot or dry, plants don't grow well, and that makes food more expensive for everyone." Then Sarah asked, "What can we do to stop or slow down this problem? It feels so big and scary." I smiled and said, "There are many things we can do together. For example, using renewable energy like solar power or wind instead of gasoline and coal can reduce pollution." We imagined a future city with clean energy. I said, "Imagine homes with solar panels on the roof that catch sunlight and turn it into electricity. No smoke, no pollution, just clean power." Sarah added, "And electric cars that don't create any exhaust fumes. That will help keep the air fresh and healthy." I continued, "Also, planting trees is very important. Trees absorb carbon dioxide and give us clean oxygen, which helps fight global warming." She agreed and said, "We could all plant a tree in our backyard or community park." I told her about simple lifestyle changes too, like reducing waste by recycling and using reusable bags instead of plastic ones. Sarah smiled and said, "I will start turning off lights when I leave a room and take shorter showers to save water and energy." I added, "And buying less meat can help because producing meat uses a lot of energy and creates greenhouse gases." We laughed a little thinking about how small actions by many people can add up to big changes. If everyone made one small change, we could really protect the planet for future generations. Sarah nodded happily and said, "It feels good to know that even as individuals, we have the power to help." Later, we talked about how governments and companies can help too. It's not just about what people do at home, I said. Governments can make rules to reduce pollution and support clean energy projects. Sarah added, "Yes, like banning harmful chemicals or encouraging electric buses for cities." I explained, and companies can invent new technologies like better batteries or energy-efficient machines to reduce their carbon footprint. Sarah asked, "Do you think young people can also make a difference?" "Definitely," I replied. "Youth activism is powerful. When students and young adults speak up, they inspire others and push leaders to act faster." We concluded that climate change is a challenge, but also an opportunity for all of us to work together. If we learn more about the causes and effects and share that knowledge, I said, we become stronger in protecting our planet. Sarah agreed and said, "It is our responsibility as global citizens to take care of the Earth because it is our home." We ended our talk by deciding to share these ideas with our families and friends to help spread awareness. The more people understand these issues, I said, the better chance we have to solve them. Sarah smiled and said, "I'm glad we had this conversation because it gives me hope and ideas for change." This shows how easy it can be to start talking about climate change and find real solutions together. Remember, learning English with topics like this strengthens your language skills and helps you become a more informed and responsible person. Keep practicing, stay curious, and let's protect our planet one small step at a time. Now, shall we move on to part 2 about forests, wildlife, and biodiversity? The conversation continues from here. After our deep talk about climate change, Sarah and I decided to spend a day in the forest near her home to appreciate nature more closely. As we walked through the tall trees, Sarah said, "It feels so peaceful here. Forests like this are really important for our planet." I smiled and replied, "You're right. Forests provide oxygen, which we need to breathe, and they are home to many kinds of animals and plants." She looked around and asked, "Do you think forests are disappearing fast, like the ice caps?" I nodded and explained, "Yes, deforestation is a big problem. People cut down trees for wood or to make space for farming, and that destroys animal habitats." Sarah said, "I saw on TV that some animals become endangered or even extinct because of this." I added, "Exactly. Animals like tigers, elephants, and orangutans lose their homes and struggle to survive." We continued our walk and came across some bird sounds. Sarah paused and said, "Listen to the birds. They make the forest lively, don't they?" I agreed and told her, "Birds and other wildlife depend on forests for food and shelter. If the forest disappears, they don't have a place to live." She asked, "Are zoos a good solution to help animals?" I thought for a moment and answered, "Zoos can protect some animals, but they are not the same as natural habitats. Animals live better in the wild, where they can behave naturally." Sarah nodded and said, "So it's better to protect forests than to rely only on zoos." We talked about how humans can help keep forests healthy. I said one way is by supporting conservation programs. These programs protect forest areas and help endangered species. Sarah asked, "Can we do anything to help?" I replied, "Yes, small actions can make a difference." You can avoid buying products made from illegal wood or palm oil from destroyed forests. Sarah looked interested and said, "I didn't know buying certain products could hurt forests. I will read labels more carefully." I added, "Also, planting trees in your community is a great way to help." She smiled and said, "Maybe our school can start a tree planting project." While walking further, we saw some colorful butterflies and wildflowers. Sarah said, "Forests are so full of life. All these different plants and animals are called biodiversity, right?" I nodded and explained, "Yes, biodiversity means all the variety of life in an area. It's important because every plant and animal has a role in keeping the ecosystem balanced." Sarah asked, "What happens if we lose biodiversity?" I answered, "If we lose species, it can affect food chains and nature's ability to clean air and water. It also affects humans because we rely on forests for medicine, food, and clean water." As the sun began to set, Sarah said, "I feel happy to spend time in the forest and learn all this. It makes me want to protect it." I smiled and said, "That's the best feeling. When we connect with nature, we become stronger to care for it." She added, "I want to tell my friends about endangered animals and why forests matter." I suggested, "You could also visit wildlife centers or take part in ecotourism trips to learn more and support conservation." Sarah agreed and said, "That sounds fun and helpful. I want to be a wildlife protector." We ended the day with a promise to stay responsible and spread awareness about forests and wildlife. "If we all respect nature and make thoughtful choices," I said, "we can keep forests healthy and protect the amazing creatures that live there." Sarah said, "Let's do it together and help make a kinder world for animals and people." This day in the forest reminded us that nature is not just beautiful, but vital to life, and protecting it is a shared job we can all do step by step. As we sat on a fallen log, catching our breath, Sarah looked around and said, "It's amazing how calm everything feels here compared to the busy city." I nodded and replied, "Yes, forests are like nature's safe places. They help clean the air we breathe and keep the climate balanced." Sarah asked, "How do forests keep the climate balanced?" I explained, "Trees absorb carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas that causes global warming. By storing carbon, forests help cool the earth." She looked thoughtful and said, "So, cutting down trees not only hurts animals, but also makes climate change worse?" I agreed. Exactly. Deforestation releases stored carbon back into the air, increasing pollution and warming. we stood up and began walking again, and Sarah said, I read that some forests, like the Amazon, are called the lungs of the earth. Why is that? I smiled and answered, they produce a huge amount of oxygen through photosynthesis, which is essential for all living things. Sarah looked impressed and said, Whoa, I didn't know forests had such an important role for the whole planet. As we walked, I shared more about endangered species. Many are threatened because their habitats shrink. Animals like the orangutan in Borneo need large forests to survive. Sarah sighed softly. It's sad that humans and wildlife sometimes compete for land. We passed by a big tree with birds chirping above, and Sarah asked, is it better for animals to live in big forests compared to zoos? I answered, yes, because forests provide natural food, space, and freedom. Zoos help with protection, but can't fully replace the wild. Sarah nodded. I think visiting wildlife parks that protect forests is a good idea. We talked about ecotourism, a responsible way to enjoy nature without harming it. I said, tourists can learn about animals and support conservation by visiting parks that protect habitats. Sarah smiled. That sounds like an adventure with a purpose. Continuing the walk, Sarah said, I want to help, but sometimes feel small compared to the big problems. I reassured her. Even small actions by many people add up, like planting trees in your community or choosing eco-friendly products. Sarah brightened. I'm going to talk to my school about starting a nature club for students. I said, that's a wonderful idea to raise awareness and inspire others. Sarah looked determined. Together, we can protect biodiversity and help endangered animals. The next morning, Sarah and I met at a cafe to talk more about forests and how people live near them. Sarah said, some of my relatives live in a village next to a big forest. They depend on the forest for fruits, firewood, and medicine. I replied, that's true for many communities around the world. Forests provide resources and livelihoods for millions of people. Sarah asked, but what happens if the forest disappears? How do these people survive? I answered, if deforestation happens too fast, it can hurt those communities. They lose their homes and the resources they need for daily life. She paused and said, it sounds like protecting forests is important not only for animals, but also for people. We talked about how sustainable forest management can help. I explained, sustainable means using the forest carefully so it can regrow and continue providing for the future. Sarah smiled and said, that's like taking only what you need and not wasting it. I told her, exactly. It's also about planting new trees to replace the ones cut down. Sarah asked, can people live and protect the forest at the same time? I answered, yes, many communities manage forests well by combining traditional knowledge and modern methods. She said, "I want to learn more about how they do this." Later, Sarah talked about zoos and wildlife parks again. "I visited a zoo last year," she said, "and I liked seeing animals, but I felt sad they were not free." I said, "That's a common feeling. Many zoos now try to create natural habitats for animals and focus on education and research." Sarah added, "I think it would be better if more forests were protected so animals don't need zoos." I agreed. That is the goal of conservation: saving natural habitats so animals can live safely in the wild. Sarah smiled. "I hope people visit forests and learn to respect wildlife instead of taking from nature." We ended our meeting with a plan to visit a wildlife sanctuary soon. Seeing animals in their real environment will help us understand the need for protection, I said. Sarah agreed. "I want to become an advocate for forests and wildlife. It's a big responsibility, but a good one." We promised to share what we learn with others and encourage them to care for forests and the animals living there. This conversation helped us feel more connected to nature and ready to take part in its care. A few days later, Sarah and I went to the wildlife sanctuary we had planned. As we entered, she whispered, "I'm so excited, but also a little nervous to see wild animals up close." I smiled and said, "It's natural to feel that way. Remember, this place is made to protect animals while letting people learn." We walked slowly and saw deer quietly grazing, colorful birds flying, and even a family of monkeys playing in the trees. Sarah said softly, "It's amazing to see animals behaving freely. This is their home." I added, "Yes, seeing them in their natural habitat helps us understand why forests and conservation matter so much." Later, we met a guide who explained how the sanctuary works. She said, "We protect endangered species by keeping their habitat safe and educating visitors about wildlife." Sarah asked, "How do you help animals if the forest is damaged?" The guide replied, "Sometimes we take injured or orphaned animals to care for them, but our main job is to protect the forest so they have a safe home." Sarah nodded slowly. "I see. It's like helping without changing their wildlife too much." I whispered, "That balance is very important for nature's health." As we walked through a quiet path, Sarah said, "The beauty here makes me want to protect forests even more." I replied, "Every visit like this reminds us of the value of biodiversity, the many different plants and animals that live together." Sarah smiled. "I hope more people visit and learn to love forests too." I said, "When people care, they will support better laws and conservation projects." We watched a group of children learning about trees and animals, and Sarah whispered, "Education is key for the future." Before leaving, Sarah turned to me and said, "I feel lucky to have this experience. It shows how connected we are to forests and wildlife." I agreed and said, "We are part of this big web of life, and protecting forests protects ourselves." She smiled and said, "I'm ready to share what I learned and do my part for conservation." This day at the sanctuary deepened our understanding and strengthened our promise to care for the Earth's wonderful forest life. After learning so much about forests and wildlife, Sarah and I began noticing how pollution affects not only trees and animals, but also water and air around us. One afternoon, while walking in the city park, Sarah said, "I feel like the air in the city smells heavy and dusty sometimes." I nodded and answered, "Yes, city pollution is a serious problem. Smoke from cars, factories, and dust make the air dirty and unhealthy to breathe." She asked, "What can happen if we keep breathing polluted air every day?" I explained, long-term exposure can cause health problems like asthma, lung diseases, and even heart issues. Sarah looked shocked and said, "That's scary. I didn't know pollution could be so harmful." We sat on a bench watching cars pass by, and Sarah continued, "What about water? I heard that water pollution is also a big worry." I replied, "Yes, pollution affects rivers, lakes, and oceans. Waste from factories, garbage, and chemicals often end up in water bodies." Sarah said, "My city's river looks dirty and sometimes smells bad. Is that dangerous?" I answered, "Definitely. Polluted water harms fish and plants, and if people drink or use contaminated water, it can cause illness." She nodded thoughtfully. "We must find ways to protect both water and air." We discussed some causes of pollution from daily life. I said, cars and trucks release gases like carbon monoxide and nitrogen oxides. Factories sometimes dump waste into rivers without cleaning it properly. Sarah added, "And lots of plastic trash ends up in the ocean. I saw pictures of sea turtles trapped in plastic." I agreed. Plastic pollution is a global problem. Marine animals can get hurt or die because of it. Sarah sighed. "What can we do to help reduce this kind of pollution?" I shared some solutions. To improve air quality, many cities encourage public transport, cycling, or walking. Reducing car use lowers pollution. Sarah said, "I try to bike to school sometimes, and I always wear a mask when the air is bad." I smiled. Those are great habits. Also, planting trees along streets helps clean the air. Sarah nodded. And for water, we can avoid throwing trash in rivers or drains and support water cleanup campaigns. I added, recycling plastic bottles and using fewer plastics can keep our oceans safer. As we walked home, Sarah noticed a poster about an air quality app. She said, "I want to check the air quality every day now and avoid going outside when it's very polluted." I said, "That's smart. Being aware helps us protect our health and take precautions." She smiled. Together, small actions can lead to cleaner air and water for everyone. This conversation showed how city pollution impacts our lives and how we can help make our environment healthier by changing daily habits. A few days later, Sarah and I met at a cafe again to discuss water and air pollution problems more deeply. She said, "Sometimes when I take a bath, I notice the water pressure is low or the water looks cloudy. I wonder if that means the water is not clean." I replied, "It might be because of pollution or old pipes. Clean water is very important for health, so many cities work hard to purify water before it reaches homes." Sarah asked, "What kind of pollution can get into water?" I explained, "There are many types. Chemical waste from factories, sewage from homes, and trash that ends up in rivers and lakes." Sarah looked worried. "If people drink polluted water, they can get sick, right?" I nodded. "Yes, diseases like cholera and typhoid spread through dirty water." We talked about ways to keep our water safe. I said, one way is using water filters or purifiers at home, which remove harmful germs and chemicals. Sarah smiled. "My parents recently bought a purifier, and I feel safer drinking water now." I added, "Governments also build treatment plants to clean wastewater before it returns to rivers." Sarah asked, "Can individuals do more to reduce water pollution?" I answered, "Yes, we should not throw plastic, oils, or chemicals into sinks or drains. Also, conserving water helps reduce pollution by lowering the amount of wastewater produced." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "I will try to use water wisely and keep drains clean." Then we turned our attention back to the air. Sarah said, "I read that cities with many cars usually have bad air quality. How can we fix that problem?" I answered, "Reducing car use is key. People can use buses or trains, bike or walk short distances. Electric vehicles also produce less pollution compared to petrol or diesel cars." Sarah smiled. "I hope more cities will switch to electric buses soon." I added, "Air quality improves when fewer pollutants enter the atmosphere. Trees and parks also help by absorbing harmful gases." Sarah said, "I want to plant trees near my school to help clean the air." We agreed that pollution control needs effort from both individuals and governments. I said, "Governments can set stricter laws to limit factory emissions and encourage cleaner technologies." Sarah said, "And people can support those laws by voting and raising awareness." I smiled. "Also, schools can educate children about pollution and ways to protect the environment." Sarah said, "I think our conversations make me more aware and ready to act." I replied, "Learning and sharing information is the first step to change." We ended our talk deciding to start a small cleanup drive in our neighborhood. Sarah said, "Picking up trash and spreading the message about pollution will help our community." I agreed. Yes, every small step counts toward cleaner air and water for all. Walking back, we felt hopeful, knowing that together we can work toward a healthier planet. The next weekend, Sarah and I met at the local park to plan our neighborhood cleanup event. Sarah said, I think starting with picking up plastic and trash near the river will help prevent pollution from reaching the water. I agreed and replied, yes, trash on the streets often washes into rivers during rain, causing water pollution. Sarah added, we should also talk to our neighbors about not littering and using trash bins properly. I nodded. Raising awareness is as important as cleaning up. If people understand the effects of pollution, they will change their habits. We prepared some posters with simple messages like keep our air clean and protect our water, don't litter. Sarah said using clear messages will help everyone understand easily. I smiled and added, we can also talk about recycling and how to reduce plastic use. Sarah asked, do you think kids will join us? I said, yes. Students love helping nature, especially if we make it fun with games and rewards. She laughed, great, an eco-friendly party. On the cleanup day, many neighbors and children joined. Sarah said, look how much trash we collected already. It feels good to see the park cleaner. I added, cleaning helps the environment and makes our community nicer to live in. A little boy asked, why should we pick up trash? And Sarah explained, trash harms animals and pollutes water and air. Picking it up saves them. The boy smiled, I want to help the animals. After the cleanup, we sat under a tree and talked about air pollution. Sarah said, I try to use my bike instead of a car now. It's healthier for me and the planet. I agreed. That's a wonderful habit. Walking and cycling reduce harmful gases in the air. We also discussed reducing plastic by using reusable bottles and bags. Sarah said, I stopped buying plastic water bottles. I use a metal bottle instead. I smiled. These small changes in daily life make a big difference if many people do them. We felt happy seeing the community's positive response and promised to keep working together for cleaner air and water. Protecting the environment is our shared responsibility, I said. Sarah nodded, and together we can make a healthier world for ourselves and the next generation. Walking home, we realized how small steps shared with others grow into big changes. After working on pollution control, Sarah and I started talking more about sustainable living and eco-friendly habits that make a difference every day. One afternoon, as we shopped for groceries, Sarah said, I noticed many people still buy plastic bags even though we have reusable ones. I replied, yes, changing habits takes time, but using reusable bags helps reduce plastic waste, which pollutes land and water. Sarah smiled. I always carry a cloth bag now. It feels good to help the planet with this simple choice. I said, Simple actions like this show that sustainable living is about making thoughtful decisions every day. We continued shopping, and Sarah said, I also started choosing fruits and vegetables with less packaging. It's better for the environment. I added, buying local and seasonal produce reduces the carbon footprint caused by transportation and refrigeration. She asked, can we do more at home? I answered, yes, like saving water by turning off the tap while brushing teeth and using energy-saving light bulbs. Sarah nodded. I switched off lights in rooms when not in use. My family noticed the electricity bill is lower now. I smiled. That's a wonderful bonus, saving money while helping the earth. At Sarah's home, we talked about waste and recycling. She said, we started separating our trash into recyclables and organic waste. I said, that's great. Composting organic waste reduces landfill and turns food scraps into useful fertilizer. Sarah asked, what about zero waste? I heard about it, but don't know how to start. I explained, zero waste means producing as little trash as possible by using reusable, repairing things, and avoiding single-use products. Sarah smiled. That sounds like a big challenge, but also very positive. I said, start small, like using a refillable water bottle or bringing your own lunchbox. Next, we talked about transportation choices. Sarah said, I try to take the bus or bike instead of asking for a car ride every time. I replied, public transport and cycling not only reduce pollution, but also help us stay active and healthy. Sarah laughed. True, riding my bike gives me exercise and fresh air. I added, walking for short trips is another eco-friendly habit that's good for the environment and yourself. Sarah nodded. I will suggest a walk to school day at my school to encourage others. As we ended the day, Sarah reflected, changing habits is not always easy, but it feels rewarding to live more sustainably. I agreed. Every mindful choice builds a better future. Our small actions added together create big impact. We promise to keep learning and encouraging others to adopt eco-friendly habits for the health of the planet and ourselves. A few days later, Sarah invited me to her home to help with a small garden project. She said, I want to plant some trees and flowers in my backyard to make the place greener. I smiled and replied, that's a wonderful idea. Plants not only beautify the space, but also improve air quality and provide homes for birds and insects. As we started digging, Sarah asked, can growing plants at home really help the environment? I answered, yes, even small gardens help absorb carbon dioxide and cool the air around us. She nodded. I didn't realize planting trees was so important. While planting, Sarah said, I also want to reduce plastic use at home. Do you have any tips? I suggested, try using wooden or metal utensils instead of plastic, and buy food in bulk to avoid extra packaging. Sarah smiled. I'll also start using cloth napkins instead of paper towels. I added, and don't forget to carry reusable water bottles and coffee cups when you go out. Sarah laughed. I already do that. Later, we talked about energy use. Sarah said, sometimes I forget to turn off computers and lights. How can I remember better? I recommended, you can create a checklist or set reminders on your phone. Also, involve your family to help each other. Sarah nodded. Good idea. I want to make my home more energy efficient. I said, small changes, like switching to LED bulbs and unplugging devices, save electricity and reduce pollution. After finishing the garden, Sarah said, I feel more connected to the earth when I plant and care for living things. I agreed. Sustainable living is about respecting nature and making daily choices that support it. Sarah smiled. I want to spread this message to my friends and family. We promised to keep practicing eco-friendly habits and inspire others for a healthier planet. A few days later, Sarah and I met at the bus stop to talk about using public transport. Sarah said, I used to ask my parents to drive me everywhere, but now I want to take the bus more often. I smiled and replied, that's a great choice because buses carry many people, which means fewer cars on the road and less air pollution. Sarah asked, is it difficult to use public transport? I answered, it can take some getting used to, but planning your route and timing helps. She nodded. I started reading the bus schedule online, and it feels easier. While waiting, Sarah said, sometimes I see people throwing trash out of car windows. It bothers me. I agreed. Littering adds to pollution and harms nature. Using trash bins and recycling properly helps keep our environment clean. Sarah said, I want to encourage people to respect public spaces and nature. I added, community cleanups and education can change attitudes. Sarah smiled. Maybe our school can organize a bus ride day to reduce cars. On the bus, we spoke about zero-waste living. Sarah said, it sounds difficult to produce no waste at all. Where do we begin? I explained, zero waste means trying your best to avoid single-use plastics and reusing or recycling whenever possible. Sarah asked, can you give examples of zero-waste habits? I said, using cloth bags, carrying your own water bottle, buying unpackaged food, and composting kitchen scraps. She smiled. I'm already doing some of these and want to try more. We talked about how zero-waste living helps reduce pollution and protect wildlife. Sarah said, plastic waste often ends up in oceans and hurts animals like turtles and birds. I added, choosing products with less packaging means less trash to clean up later. Sarah said, I will tell my family to switch to reusable containers and avoid plastic straws. I said, great! Every change counts and inspires others. As we arrived home, Sarah reflected. Living sustainably feels like a way to show love for the planet. I agreed. When we care for nature,
We care for ourselves and future generations. Sarah smiled. I'm excited to keep learning and sharing eco-friendly habits. We promise to keep supporting each other and spreading awareness about simple ways to live sustainably.
One sunny afternoon, Sarah invited me to join her family for a meal at their home. As we prepared lunch together, Sarah said, "We try to waste less food by planning meals carefully and saving leftovers." I smiled and replied, "That's a smart way to reduce food waste, which helps reduce pollution from rotting garbage." Sarah asked, "Can you explain how food waste causes pollution?" I answered, "When food is thrown away and breaks down in landfills, it produces methane, a powerful greenhouse gas that contributes to global warming." Sarah looked surprised. I didn't know that food waste affected the climate. While cooking, Sarah said, "I also buy fruits and vegetables from local farmers markets. It feels better than buying imported products." I replied, "Buying local supports farmers and reduces pollution caused by transporting food long distances." Sarah smiled. "I want to encourage my school friends to buy local too." I said, "That's a great idea. Schools can host farmers' market days to promote local food." At the dining table, we talked about energy-saving habits. Sarah said, "My family switched to LED bulbs and turns off appliances when not in use." I added, "LED bulbs use less electricity and last longer, which helps reduce energy consumption and waste." Sarah asked, "What else can we do to live sustainably at home?" I said, "Simple changes like drying clothes outside, unplugging chargers, and using natural cleaning products help too." After lunch, Sarah said, "I feel proud of the small changes we are making. They show we care for the earth." I nodded. Sustainable living is a journey made of many small steps that add up to big impact. Sarah smiled. I want to keep learning and sharing what I know. We promised to continue practicing eco-friendly habits and inspire those around us. After exploring sustainable living, Sarah and I became curious about renewable energy and its role in protecting the planet's future. One afternoon, we visited a local science center that had a special exhibit on solar and wind power. As we looked at solar panels, Sarah said, "It's amazing how sunlight can be changed into electricity." I smiled and replied, "Solar energy is clean and endless because it uses the sun, which shines every day." Sarah asked, "Can solar power work on cloudy days?" I answered, "Solar panels work best in sunlight, but still generate some power on cloudy days." Next, we saw a model of a wind turbine spinning slowly. Sarah said, "The wind turns the blades and creates energy, right?" I nodded. "Yes, wind energy is another clean source. It doesn't produce pollution or greenhouse gases." Sarah smiled. "I hope more places use wind and solar power instead of coal or oil." I added, "Many countries are investing in these technologies to reduce carbon emissions and protect the planet's future." Later, we attended a classroom session where an engineer explained renewable energy projects.
The engineer said, using green energy reduces air and water pollution because it doesn't burn fossil fuels. Sarah asked, are there challenges to using renewable energy everywhere? The engineer replied, yes, sometimes initial costs are high, and energy storage is still improving, but technology is advancing fast. Sarah smiled and said, it's good to know people are working hard to find solutions. After the lesson, Sarah said, I want to learn more about clean energy so I can help in the future. I encouraged her. Young people like you are important for spreading awareness and pushing for renewable energy use. Sarah added, maybe I can join an environmental club or group that works on green projects. I said, that's a great way to make a difference and inspire others. As we left the center, Sarah said, seeing renewable energy in action gives me hope for a cleaner, healthier planet. I agreed. The future depends on innovation and responsible choices. Together, we can build a sustainable world. Sarah smiled. Let's keep learning and sharing so everyone understands how important renewable energy is. Walking home, we felt excited about the role we can play in protecting our planet's future. A few days later, Sarah and I attended a youth environmental workshop at our community center. The speaker was a young activist who talked passionately about the importance of clean energy and saving the planet. Sarah whispered, it's inspiring to hear someone our age working so hard for change. I nodded and replied, yes, youth activism is powerful because young people bring fresh ideas and energy. The speaker said, we can influence governments and businesses by raising our voices and showing that we care. After the talk, Sarah asked, how can we get involved in green technology as students? The activist answered, you can join science clubs, participate in renewable energy projects, and create awareness campaigns at school. Sarah smiled. I want to start a project about solar power at my school. I added, that's a great way to learn and inspire others to support clean energy. We also learned about new innovations like butter batteries for storing solar energy and small wind turbines for homes. Sarah said, technology is moving fast, and it feels exciting to be part of this change. I agreed. Advances like these will help more people access green energy and protect the environment. Later, Sarah and I talked about how social media helps youth activism. She said, sharing messages online connects people and spreads awareness quickly. I replied, it's a tool for education and calling leaders to take action. Sarah smiled. We should use it responsibly to support environmental causes. As the workshop ended, Sarah said, I'm hopeful the future is in good hands with young people like us ready to act. I smiled. Together, knowledge, passion, and technology can protect our planet for generations. Walking home, we promised to stay active, keep learning, and encourage clean energy for a better world. In the following weeks, Sarah's school held a special class on renewable energy and climate action. The teacher began by explaining how solar panels and wind turbines generate electricity without harming the environment. Sarah whispered to me, "It's great to learn these facts and understand how clean energy works." I nodded. Knowing the science behind renewable energy helps us appreciate its importance. The teacher asked the class, "What are some ways we can use renewable energy in our homes and community?" A student replied, "We can install solar panels on our rooftops and encourage friends to save electricity." During the lesson, the teacher showed videos of youth-led environmental movements around the world. Sarah said, "Young people everywhere are taking action. It makes me feel part of a global team." I agreed. Youth activism connects us across countries, creating a stronger voice for the planet. The teacher added, "Even simple steps like organizing cleanups, spreading awareness, or planting trees count as activism." Sarah smiled. "I want to do all of these." After class, Sarah and I planned a community meeting to share what we learned. Sarah said, "We can invite neighbors, teachers, and local leaders to talk about renewable energy and climate change." I suggested we could include demonstrations and videos to make the event interesting. Sarah nodded. "And encourage everyone to support green energy choices and reduce pollution." As the meeting day arrived, Sarah welcomed people warmly. She said, "Thank you all for joining. Together, we can make our community cleaner and healthier." During the event, we showed solar lamps, talked about electric bikes, and explained how reducing waste helps the planet. A neighbor said, "I didn't know solar power was so accessible. I want to try it at home." Sarah smiled. Every step toward renewable energy helps protect our environment and future. After the meeting, Sarah said, "Sharing knowledge and inspiring others is powerful." I added, "Education and community action are keys to change." We promised to keep organizing events and learning about new green technologies. Walking home, we felt proud knowing our voices could help shape a cleaner, greener future. This journey of learning about renewable energy and youth activism has shown us how much power we have to protect our planet. Every small action, every shared idea can ignite change and build a brighter future for all. Together, we can be the change makers our Earth needs. Thank you so much for watching and being part of this important conversation. Your time and attention mean a lot, and I hope you feel inspired to take action in your own way. Remember, the future belongs to those who care and act today. Keep practicing English, stay curious, and never stop learning, because with knowledge comes the power to change the world. Every step you take toward better language skills is a step toward a better you. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel, Progressive English Learning. Join our growing community of learners who are passionate about English and making a difference. Don't forget to like, share, and comment below with your thoughts and ideas. I love hearing from you. Together, let's keep learning and progressing.